Is the Flash a wee bit ridiculous? Yeah, I guess you could say that. But is it fun? Oh yeah, you bet it is. Let's get the spoiler-free review started. In The Flash, we get an expansion to the Barry Allen Speedster introduced in the Snyderverse many years ago. He's a fairly experienced superhero at this point, and he's figured out how to travel through time. Because of this, he believes that he can change the past that had his mom die and had his father convicted for her death. And by so doing, the changing of one event in Barry's life led to the multiversal ripple effects that he has to go and fix. I really enjoyed this movie. So many things worked for me. Right from the get-go, we jump into the action. The action sequences in this movie are awesome. Whether it was the Flash's fight choreography, how the Batmen fought, or we get to travel back in time to the Man of Steel days and see the Kryptonian fight sequences, all the action worked for me. I really enjoyed watching all of these action sequences. All the action was so much fun and prompted a lot of reactions out of me. Another strong point about this movie is the characters. Ezra Miller does a really solid job at playing multiple versions of Barry Allen. Whether it was the older version of Barry or the younger version of Barry, I was pretty impressed with Ezra Miller's performance. He showcased a lot of emotion and heart in various sequences of the film. And then we get to my favorite part about the movie, Kara Zor-El. Now, being completely honest, I have a particular affinity to the blonde-haired Supergirl, but Sasha does a really wonderful job at this particular version of the Supergirl character. Sasha Calle does a really good job at portraying the intensity and harkens back to the stoicism that we see in the Man of Steel Superman. I really enjoyed her performance in this film and was delightfully surprised by this interpretation of the Supergirl character. Again, you could feel the intensity of her character. And then our main Batman of the film, Michael Keaton, does a really good job. It's been a long time since I watched his Batman movies, but it really was great seeing him in this role again. Barry Allen's family also worked for me. There were a lot of moments of heart that really tugged at my heartstrings, especially at the end of the film. Again, most of the characters worked for me, but the only one that I can think of that didn't really work was Iris. I didn't feel a lot of chemistry between her and Barry. Her role wasn't that big in the film, but ultimately it didn't click for me. The Flash is the kind of superhero movie that has a good amount of jokes in it. A lot of them actually worked for me. Some of the sequences can be a bit ridiculous, especially when it comes to the Flash character. There were only a few times where I thought the jokes were a little much. Be prepared for a lot of one-liners sprinkled in often in this film. The score was also great. It was very effective in setting the tone for the given scenes in the film, especially the ones with Batman. I really loved when you could hear the instruments and the score and the grandioseness of the Batman sequences. Also, the multiversal aspect of the film and the time traveling actually worked for me. Multiverse and time travel can get a little complex, but I did like how this movie handled it. Another thing I liked was how a lot of the points and ideas introduced in the beginning of the film came full circle by the end of it. As far as the things I didn't like or the nitpicks I have with the movie, the only two things that come to mind are the CGI and the pacing. There's a lot of CGI and effects in The Flash. Many times I was impressed by the effects. For example, I liked the design of the lightning speed force effect that they used for the Flash. But there are a lot of other scenes that rely heavily on CGI, and it's pretty noticeable. With what the movie was trying to convey in those scenes, the CGI got the job done. Again, my gripe with the CGI is very nitpicky. Ultimately, it didn't tarnish my experience with The Flash. The other thing I'll nitpick and whine about is the pacing. The beginning and end are packed with action and narratively effective moments. But there's some stuff in the middle that I honestly could have done without. It still had great moments and some action, but I really felt the 2.5-hour runtime of this movie in that middle section. Otherwise, I liked the pacing of The Flash.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Alright, for spoilers, I'm only going to bring up a handful of things. As a fan of the Snyderverse, it warmed my heart to see Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck. That brief Wonder Woman scene was great. I like that they added a little romantic tension between Batman and Wonder Woman, kind of reminiscent to the comics and TV shows back in the day. Michael Shannon does exceptionally well with this iteration of Zod. Still an extremist even in another universe. I'm kind of surprised that they went as far as killing a baby Kal-El in order to serve Zod's purposes. It was awesome seeing Feora and other Kryptonians that were in Man of Steel. I love that they adapted some aspects of the Red Sun storyline for Kara Zor-El. I really enjoyed that we got to see Henry Cavill, even though it was just CGI. And then they gave us all these other Supermen. Christopher Reeves and Helen Slater's Supergirl. And Nicolas Cage's Superman from a project that didn't even get made. I was ecstatic. They even gave us Adam West Batman and George Clooney. The cameos were so awesome, fulfilling, and surprising in this movie. I also really enjoyed the overarching theme of scars. How the events of our past shape who we are today. It was compelling to see Barry Allen struggle with this, and the other version of Barry Allen to struggle with this as well. I really like the narrative point that Barry has the power to change the timeline, so why wouldn't he? And the spaghetti explanation of the multiverse helped make sense of the logic being introduced. There are essential aspects and moments to every timeline. And no matter how powerful the Flash is, he can't save everyone. He can't fix everything. The burden of being a hero. Or, as the movie puts it, there isn't always a solution. Sometimes you just have to let go. I also like that even though we see Barry accept that he can't change his mom's fate, he still makes the same mistake for his dad. And the end of the film reveals he's in a different universe with Clooney Batman. He has grown as a character, but still makes some of the same old mistakes. It also worked for me that the villain of the film turned out to be Barry himself. I was wondering if they were going to introduce Zoom or Reverse Flash, but even though they didn't, Monster Barry still worked for me narratively. And that's the gist of my spoiler-free and spoiler-filled review of The Flash. A really fun superhero movie of action and comedy. I really love this movie, and I think most of you will too. I can't wait to see it again. What did you think of The Flash? What was your favorite moment of the film? Did this multiversal time-traveling story work for you? Hit me up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll catch you next time on The Gist.